You're listening to the Co-Creator Network. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Hey, everybody. This is Maxine Taylor with another edition of Move into the Magic. And I am so thrilled to have as my guest someone who is kind of a regular on my show, Melissa Joy Jonsson. Many of you know her. She is best known for her ability to engage people from all over the world to embrace their true, authentic power through accessing universal consciousness by playing in the field of the heart. She has been teaching popular life-transformational seminars around the globe since 2008. Now, Melissa is the founder and instructor of the Joy of Being seminar series, a unifying movement in consciousness dedicated to exploring and expanding heart-centered awareness and practical personal empowerment for everyone. Her passion is truly inspiring everyone to realize his or her true, authentic self. Now, the reason I've invited her to come back again, although she and I, we laugh and say whenever we get together, we can talk for hours, and I know you'd love to be there when we do. But she's here today because she has written another book. Melissa is a best-selling author, and her latest book, The Little Book of Big Potentials, is a culmination of her unique, expansive work integrating scientific principles and spiritual concepts into practical daily experiences. This book offers a complete system of relating, assimilating, and embodying empowered, joy-filled, extraordinary living. It's about commanding, actually, the power of the unified heart and information fields that shape the experience of reality. So instead of telling you about the book, I'm going to introduce Melissa Joy Jonsson and let her do it. Welcome, Melissa, to Move Into the Magic.
Thank you, Maxine, for the beautiful introduction. I feel quite at home, as I always do, in your presence, so thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, honey. So welcome. Now, I would love to jump right in. And first of all, will you tell us, what was it that prompted, now I'm sure it drove you, but drove you, let me say that, to write this amazing book? Why did you write it?
Thank you. And you know, I've always felt that we don't really write books. It's more like books write us, that the seed of a book's completion rests within our fields, and then it's simply a matter of noticing and allowing for the words to pour forth through the writing process. But ultimately, what drove me to write this book is that I had been teaching about the joy of being and accessing flow, fulfillment, abundance, and joy in everyday life through these 24 universal fields for about 2 years. And the changes that were transpiring within the students who were playing in these fields was so remarkable. I really wanted to make this information accessible to everyone, anywhere at any time. And one of the great ways that you can disseminate information is through the platform of a book. And so initially, I thought I was going to just put together a little book that shared the information about these 24 fields. And that little book just grew and grew and grew. And while it is still little in terms of it, you know, being a standard book size, there's nothing little about the book. It is so chock full of information relating to core universal truths about how the universe organizes itself and how we experience ourselves as little mini universes. And within the book are really a series of gifts of awareness to enable the reader to come into core resonance with the truth of our essence as essentially love, and then being able to relate to all patterns and experiences in one's life from a space of grace and empowerment. And it's really a very all-inclusive system and language that provides anyone and everyone a really empowering way to relate to anything and everything. And so it's quite practical, even though it's incredibly expansive in its holographic nature.
Wow. And that's the truth. As I read the book, this is not something I wanted to race through. In fact, you can't. It spoke to me because there's different language that you use. It spoke to me on several different levels simultaneously, and I had to pause and not think about it, not analyze it, but just let it sink in. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. In fact, I was actually laughing last night because I was reading some of the feedback from individuals around the world who are enjoying the book. And one of the consistent themes that's coming back is the word savory. I want to savor the words. I thought I would sit down and read this book in one setting, and no, it's like I want to slow down and take bite-sized morsels. And I'm like, wow, it's like this buffet. You get to pick and choose what you want to engage with and resonate and absorb. And the beautiful thing about the book is that while it's laid out in what might appear to be a linear format, it's actually quite holographic, which means that every single chapter encodes for and enfolds all the information that is inherent to all the other chapters. So you don't have to read the book in order. You can skip around. You can just open at random to a page, and there'll be something there that through resonance will speak to you in a way that it might read differently than if you had read the same information the day before.
I agree with you. And in fact, I reread parts of it. As I said to you, the foreword could have been a book, a standalone book, because there was so much information in it, and there's so much information on every page in every sentence. And at first I wasn't understanding some of the verbiage, and I thought, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to go with the flow. And when I went with the flow, it was no longer about understanding it. It's not a left brain thing.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And in fact, I share with readers in the book, please read this book not from a logical standpoint of needing to understand, but experience from the field of the heart, and you will understand everything that's being shared.
That's exactly what I felt. And that's how, this book does need to be savored because it speaks to you on so many different levels. Now, remember, people are out there, Melissa, listening to us, two girlfriends talking about your book. They're going to need a little more fact, a little more explanation. And I have some questions to ask you that I think they may be thinking of, at least I hope they're thinking of them, and you can expound on this in your own inimitable way. You talked about there are 24 Joy fields. Now, the first thing they're going to want to know is, where are these fields? What are they? Why are there 24? Do you see yourself with a sequel adding more? In other words, anticipating what they may be asking. Can you jump in and respond?
Indeed. So first of all, fields are essentially non-local fields of information that universal consciousness, as well as every living, breathing organism of consciousness, utilizes to organize reality and experience, and to some extent even matter. I've explained all of the scientific principles of fields and information and how universal consciousness organizes information in the first 3 chapters of the book. I don't think it's necessary to go into all of the scientific hypotheses for the general population while we're doing a radio show. Let's just say that fields are everywhere. They're essentially non-local, which means that they are not limited by time and space. They sort of exist within a unified, non-local realm, yet we are in constant communication with these fields. In fact, these fields, which are organized through something called torsion fields, are what inform our biofields and the electromagnetic spectrum, which we can see, which we can detect, which we can measure as simply as light. And so it's the information that gives rise to our experience. Now, fields are everywhere, and where we resonate with certain fields, so we experience. If we are resonating in fields of love and grace and expansion and flow and fulfillment and abundance and joy, then that is exactly what plays out in our personal love hologram. Many of our experiences in everyday life are not so much a result of something that we have created, but are more or less a function of where we're resonating in fields. And so the 24 fields that are included in the Little Book of Pig Potentials are fields that allow anyone and everyone to modify resonance, to come into connection with more coherent reflections of the truth of who we really are. And so we get to experience abundance, we get to experience joy, we get to experience clarity, and we get to experience the manifestation of our true authentic desires because we are connected to or in resonance with fields that reflect those essences. So to answer I think it was the second part of your question, why are there only 24 fields? I don't know the answer to that. The fields came in initially in a couple of different downloads over the course of 6 months. The first 12 came in, and then the second 12 came in 6 months later. Now, it's a little bit of a misnomer to state that there's only 24 because they're holofractal in nature. They're essentially fractal holograms. Now, what that means is that the whole is in every part. Each individual field contains the whole of each and every other field. So even though I've made distinctions in the book that each field has different tendencies or capabilities or overtones, kind of like personality dispositions. It isn't entirely true to say that they are discrete and separate because they are all interconnected in the exact same way that we are all holonomically interconnected. And so there's not really 24, there's actually an exponential energetic potential that is infused within each and every discrete field, so that whether you connect to one of them or all of them, you're actually connecting to an exponential potential that then becomes available for you in your everyday experience.
To hear you explain it. Actually, it's not to hear you explain it. It's to experience you explaining it, to feel you explaining it. Gives me a higher, it raises my energy. It gives me a higher understanding. And if you asked me to play back what you just said, I wouldn't be able to. And I don't have to because it feels so good to be playing in those 24 fields right now.
Well, thank you. And what I will say to all of our listeners who might have said, well, I want to play it back because I only picked up about 20% of what she said and I don't really understand. what I will share is that understanding is not a prerequisite to experiencing these fields. In fact, the beauty of these fields is that a desire or intention to connect to the fields is what signals and activates each and every field flow. And so just wanting to connect to a field of true authentic desire or a field of manifestation or a field of joy, that will actually send out a signal that then activates the corresponding field flow. And so that's why I told the readers at the beginning of the book, hey, here's the science if you want a logical understanding of how this may work. And we never really know. All scientific models do is describe how reality may function. So I gave the science to the reader, but I said, you don't need the science in order to experience. Maybe play first and understand later. Once you've experienced, then you form your own reference for understanding.
Wow. Oh, I love that. I love that. Jump into the deep end of the pool. The water is fine, and once you're swimming around, you're having fun. You don't need the explanation. I mean, you are the explanation.
Well, absolutely, and everything that the book points to is really a remembering. I mean, most of our struggle is based on programs of confusion, morphic fields of limitation, fields of fear, fields of manipulation, and what the 24 fields of flow, fulfillment, abundance, and joy in everyday life that are included in the little book of Big Potentials allow the reader to do is to really gain clarity, and clarity leads to coherency and congruency and integrity in action, and that is a formula for manifestation, transformation, and experiencing our own inherent limitless potential.
And I think that's what's so exciting, because you and I, and so many of our listeners, are about expressing our highest and best, our limitless potential as love made manifest here on this realm, and we jump into it. We jump into the deep end of the pool. And by the way, I want to get back to the actual layout of the book, because the way you have described the chapters, it makes you want to know what's going on inside. When you introduce them as the fields, starting with the first field and the second field, and I felt it growing. I felt the power. I felt the enlightenment. And I have my favorite chapter in the book, and I would love you, rather than directing you to that, I don't want to, point you in a direction that you might have a different direction in which you'd like to go, but will you, there's no way to summarize this entire book in the time that we have here, but will you make a statement that you're led to make from the book, whatever you are led to make, that you choose, and talk about it?
Well, you're correct. There's no way to summarize the entire book or all of the fields. But what I will share with everyone who may be curious about what is available in this book is that there is a language in the book of inclusiveness, and a language that allows the reader to move from wherever they may be resonating in their current life circumstances with all our problems and all of our challenges and all our perceptions around being stuck and possibly feeling like we can't change or that we aren't good enough or that we don't deserve to experience more. And there is a framing of those subsets of reality that allows the reader to begin to see everything as placeholders, reflecting back some aspect of our awareness where we aren't necessarily giving ourselves, and I'll use the term love. Now, love is information, love is science, love is fields, but there is an aspect of integration and inclusiveness that allows for patterns to begin changing simply by the way that we relate to them. A theme within the book is that everything is you in relation to everything. The universe, universal consciousness, whatever we want to call it, comes to know itself through reflection. In fact, there is a physics of symmetry that is aligned with this reflection. And so everything in our personal perspective reality, our love hologram, is a series of projections and reflections. And what we come to recognize is these patterns in our life circumstances are placeholders that we get to interact with in a very playful, very fun, very liberating and empowering way. And these 24 fields support us in recreating and creating our own inherent creative potential in a way that is much more fulfilling and empowering. And so really it's a book about relating. And I'm not just talking relationships in terms of self in relation to another person. It's self in relation to anything and everything that we may be experiencing in what I refer to as our love hologram. And so the book teaches the reader very empowering ways to relate not only to oneself or the true authentic self, which is our limitless essence peacefully coexisting with our self-proclaimed limitations, but also true authentic relating and true authentic expression, speaking our truth, fluid boundaries, being able to stand our ground, being our own light, not making ourselves smaller so that other people can feel bigger. It's really a book about empowerment, but not power over anything or anyone. It's an inner power, it's an inner stance and a dance of grace that is harmonically expressed from the resonance we encounter when we center in the field of our hearts.
And I can hear I can hear and see your evolution in this book, looking at the books that you've written before and all of your background. This book is truly a book of love, written in a way that I think goes beyond the mind. It speaks to the field. It speaks to the heart. And I love the fact that you talk about true, authentic power, true, authentic, expressing your true, authentic opinion, true, authentic expression, true, authentic relating, true, authentic beauty.
You just rattled off several. You just rattled off several of the fields. Thank you for that.
You're so welcome. And I thought, I'm so excited to be talking to you tonight because I wanted to ask you if you would. You already started to do that, elaborating on the true, authentic self. But I would love it if you would just talk about, just for a second here, true, authentic beauty. Beauty is a facet of God. Beauty is, it is love. It lifts. I'm thinking of the planet Venus, which is beauty and love, and all things caring and giving and art. And will you talk about true, authentic beauty?
Absolutely. True, authentic beauty has a number of different facets or overtones to them. And when I say overtones, I'm talking about harmonics, but I'm really referring to tendencies or signals, packets of information that become available to anyone and everyone who signals an intent to connect. It's quite a large field, and I don't mean large in terms of size or ratio. I just mean there's a lot of distinctions that are available for us within the field. At its most basic sense, true authentic beauty has an aspect of being at home in your body, sacred vessel appreciation. However, being at home in your body is not in reference to only the physical body. It's at home in all bodies or bodies of information. This means being at home in your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, your relational body, your etheric body, your causal body, and all bodies. It's one thing to feel comfortable in this container of physicality, but if you're having thoughts that are dissonant or limiting or confusing, then it doesn't matter if you're at home in your physical body. The resonant information of that confusion is still going to inform the physical body and can eventually lead to conditions and even disease. And so true authentic beauty taps into that core essence of the truth of who we are. Yes, love, unconditional love, implying no conditions. And yet true authentic beauty brings that unconditional love into the conditions or containers of the physical body, mental, emotional, spiritual, relational, etheric, and causal bodies. Now, secondary to all of that, it's really comfort. It's a comfort field. It's homeostasis, acceptance of self in relation to whatever it is that we're noticing and experiencing. Now, what happens when we resonate in true authentic beauty is that there's this inner radiance or this inner light that really wells up. It wells up from the field of the heart, and it shines through the body temple and through all the bodies of information that make up our love hologram. This field is really, really wonderful for disconnecting from other fields of confusion, these erroneous notions of what we as women and men are supposed to look like. The advertising industry that completely wants us to feel dissatisfied and actually gears all advertising to make us feel like we're not good enough. True authentic beauty breaks resonance from those fields and allows us to come into a really cohesive relationship with all the bodies of information that inform us as individuals inherently connected to that which has no identity but is that which is unconditional love.
Oh, that's just beautiful. Just beautiful. And as long as I'm looking at that's field 114, I have a little note there. Field 113, true authentic relating, and field 115, which in your book is described as mother matters. Oh, what a grabber. Please, will you elaborate on true authentic relating and on field 115, mother matters?
Absolutely. And probably right about now, the listener is getting a sense that all of these fields are about self in relation to whatever it is that we are noticing and experiencing. Field 113, true authentic relating, the acronym being TAR, is the ability to move in awareness beyond identification through masks, roles, and personas. It's moving beyond who we have been conditioned to be as we relate to others by allowing for the masks to drop, the roles to not define us but be an extension of us. And ultimately, true authentic relating is a field of vulnerability where we are able to be in our hearts and speak our truth in relation to others. Now, true authentic relating also is self in relation to self, because many times we identify with our masks and our personas. And, we could even use the word ego, although I don't like to use that word because it has so many negative connotations, like it's some bad thing. Ego is an extension of us, and when leveraged properly can be very useful for expression. as long as we know we aren't our egos. But true authentic relating is recognizing that our accomplishments don't define us. Maxine is not the best astrologer in Georgia, although she is. She's so much more than that. And she steps into this container of astrology, and that becomes an extension and an expression of the essence of Maxine, which is unconditional love. So what this field supports us in being able to do is make the distinction and not identify exclusively through these masks that can limit us. The other beautiful aspect of true authentic relating is that it allows for freedom and flexibility as we relate to others. As long as we're trying to squeeze ourselves into this really, really tight, limiting, closed container called mother or wife or teacher or executive or gardener, whatever it is, then what happens is the information that's inherent to that container will limit how we can express. If we are free and fluid to be who we are, void of the masks and personas, then any role that we step into can become an extension and an expression of our own inherent limitless potential. Potential not being something that's outside of our reach, but the true etiology, the true origin of potential is power. And true authentic power it's inherent to us, and then it expresses through us. So true authentic relating really allows for flow and fluidity and authenticity, self in relation to self, self in relation to others. I know that was a long answer. I'll just briefly double back to the second part of your question about Field 115, Mother Matters. This is self in relation to self, in relation to distorted perceptions and projections around all fields of mothering, all mother relations, including Mother Nature as well as Mother Nurture. Ultimately, this is a field of self-mothering. Many of our misappropriations of information and energy in life come from early distorted imprinting around mother, and we could even talk about divine mother or sacred feminine. This field moves in and clears all the confusion around misidentified notions of all mothering matters. But most importantly, it allows for self-mothering, self-nurturing, self-love. And when we are loving self, then what is reflected and projected in our holograms reflects that accordingly. It will heal rifts with all forms of relating to all mother matters.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's so amazing to me whenever I interview you how the books you have written come alive when you describe them. I have authors who, don't write the same way you do, don't treat the same subjects you do. And just listening to you express what you've put on paper, which is really so, it's black and white. It comes alive, and I know that our listeners are feeling the very same way. I have two more fields that I'm dying to ask you about. I'll just give you the first one, and then instead of throwing them all at you at once. Field 118, play, P-L-A-Y, potential love awaiting you. Will you please talk about that? Because everybody wants love in every single form. And the hope, that the excitement, the anticipation that potential love awaiting you brings, it makes me tingle. Will you please address that?
Certainly, and one thing that I'll share with the listeners is that there's this orchestration of a movement that occurs through the book where the fields are presented in series of three, and they actually follow they actually follow a little bit of a logic, which I didn't see until I was 90% done with the book in terms of how they self-organized. So Field 118 is the third in a series of fields evolving around play as potential love awaiting you. Field 118 is specific to overtones of completion. Love itself is inherently complete. Love is period. Love is what we are. And what Field 118 supports us in recognizing is that love already is wholly, inherently complete from within us. And this Field 118 supports us in facilitating a movement away from comparison and competition toward compassion and completion, because we are resonating in a field where what is reflected back to us in our hologram is this projection and an embodiment of our own inherent completion. And really the overtones are compassion and completion, the undertones, the sort of the tickles of the field, you're tickled with a sense of play. And so this field really inspires us to be more playful, to approach ourselves and our situations and circumstances as play. For the listeners around the world who have heard me teach seminars, matrix energetic seminars and MJoy seminars, play is a fundamental component to the transformation process. This Field 118 is very, very specific in allowing us to establish what I call true authentic friendship. And true authentic friendship begins when we befriend ourselves. When we end the competition and the comparison and the resonance with thinking that we are less than another, or we are less than what society thinks we need to be, or that we aren't good enough, then we are enveloped in this bubble of unconditional love and playfulness and joy for the sheer joy of being. And that all becomes available through Field 118. The true authentic friendship component also ripples out into all of our interpersonal relations. And so when we are embodying the love that is within us, we can experience the love that surrounds us, and then we experience that through reflection by virtue of how we are connected to others. And so this really supports a field of community and collaboration by virtue of honoring authenticity as individuality still inherently connected to community.
Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. And the other field, I mean, there are many I could ask you about, but the one that when I ask you, you'll not be surprised at all. Field 124, planetary balance and unity. Please elaborate.
Yeah, that field is actually, obviously it was the last one that came in, and it was the only one that my guidance, my inner guides, my guidesses, whatever they are, would not, they didn't really want me to edit it. It just kind of came in, and that's how it's presented in the book. But basically, Field 124 is, it connects the individual with the unified heartbeat of the planet. It's planetary balance. It supports a rebalancing and a coherence with the Earth's grids and connection to all intergalactic solar systems. So basically what this field does is it connects up through the field of the heart and with the sun and with the crystal in the center of the planet, and then it ripples out and it just clears all of the confusion in the collective love hologram. Primarily, there's so much focus right now on the world's coming to an end, or, we're on the road for disaster, or we have global warming, or there's a water shortage, or there's electromagnetic interference. And all of this global frenzy is actually serving to perpetuate more confusion in our holograms. As long as we are focusing on all of the problems, then that is what gets projected in the hologram, and then that's reflected back through Mother Nature. So what this field supports is certainly not putting our heads in the sand and saying we don't care, we don't need to be conscious and live through choice with discernment, because choice with discernment is very important. However, this field supports a coherent projection out into the holographic universe of Mother Nature as her true authentic self in its own inherent, I'll call it divine perfection. And when I'm referring to the word divine, I'm not talking about something that escapes our accessibility. I'm talking about divine in terms of sustainability. Divine also means sustainable. And so Field 124 supports a cohesive connection to that which is sustainable in our shared hologram, and it begins by virtue of establishing a coherent connection with our own heart fields in our own personal holograms. So there's a individual responsibility to clean up our own personal ecology. However, resonance with Field 124 supports the interconnected relationship with planetary ecology and intergalactic ecology as well.
As you know, I'm particularly interested in everything intergalactic.
I do know. That's why I elaborated on it for you. Thought you would love that.
Thank you. I did, and I do. I mean, that's why I'm here.
What I love about Field 124 is it allows for a remembering of a time when human beings lived according to the heartbeat of the planet, when we were completely in rhythm. And it restores the rhythm and the harmonics of global consciousness potentially.
Wow, that's so beautiful. It is then, from where I'm sitting, a field of completion on many levels.
Well, I think all the fields, to some extent, are fields of completion, but that took it to a different level. At least that was my experience when I had kind of love tears. I felt grace when that field came in. I was like, wow, didn't expect that. So I hope people enjoy it and appreciate it and leverage it.
Oh, I'm sure they will. Let me ask you this, Melissa, when you were downloading this, when you were being the intermediary, who actually was the scribe for this information, did you get visuals on these fields?
I did. What started happening, because it all kind of happens fast, and then you kind of lose track of time. A lot of the fields were coming in as sacred geometric forms, and so the role of the geometry was a really important piece in terms of my interpreting the information accurately. And as you know, I mean, the intuitive brain, the right brain, it naturally speaks in geometric patterns. And so, yes, I was seeing a lot of shapes, and I included the fractal geometry in the scientific section because I felt that would allow for some people who see shapes or who experience the shapes and the patterns of the universe to connect to the fields more easily. Now, to support the reader in being able to connect to the information through shapes, on August 8th, in collaboration with a beautiful graphic artist, I will be releasing a series of 24 fractal hologram videos and still portraits that each serve as a portal into accessing every one of the fields and or all of the fields. They're accompanied by music, and they move. And so it's basically a multisensorial fractal holographic geometric experience for the information in the book. And I'm super excited because it will give everyone the ability to access the information in a way that will speak to the part of their awareness that knows everything is made through geometry.
Oh my God, I'm so excited about that. I'm speechless. That is just it goes hand in hand with the book. Of course, everybody is going to want those. They're going to want the full set. Are you selling them as a set, or is that?
Yeah, we're going to sell them individually as well as the entire album. Very much like if you were to download an individual song or an album from iTunes. If you get the album, it's less expensive than if you purchase per song. Incidentally, today and over the course of the next 17 days, we will be releasing free versions of the fractal holograms to support an increase in the awareness of these fields and the multisensorial experience that is available. Listeners can visit my website at www.mjoyheartfield.com. That's MJOYHERTFIELD.com. And or if they're on Facebook, they're welcome to go to my Facebook page, which is also Joy Heartfield. And there's the option to download some of these free fractal holograms to begin experiencing the fields now without even picking up a book. So that is an option that's available. And then all of the songs or the fractal hologram videos, the musical harmonics will be available on 8/8/2015, which is 888. So I'm really excited about that alignment and that chosen date.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I'm loving it. I am just loving it. Everybody, you're going to go to Melissa's website, mjoyheartfield.com. You're going to go to her Facebook page. You're going to want to download these. I want to download them. I'm so excited that you're doing it on August 8th. And we are visual learners. And to have it visually and to be able to hear the appropriate music, I think absolutely completes it. It's just perfect.
I absolutely agree. Oh, I was just going to say that there's a beautiful story around how the music evolved, which I think I'll save the story for when you and I play together again and the fractal holograms are out. But it's really funny how things show up in perfect timing, and if you're really paying attention, you can see how the universe really is supporting and collaborating and really is inspired by our true authentic desires. When we get in alignment with that and when we're in flow, magic really happens.
Oh, yes. Why do you think I wrote my book, Move into the Magic?
Well, I know.
Yes.
But it's so exciting. It's just so beautiful when it happens. It just never ceases to amaze me, and I feel like a little kid, and then I just feel even more playful when things like that happen.
Oh, I agree. I can imagine. Now, let me ask you this. You're having a joyful experience. It's perfectly clear. We can all feel that. And when you're in the flow, of course, everything happens magnificently. Where have you been shown, have you been told what the effect of this book will have on this planet? More specifically, what would you like the effect to be?
That's a beautiful question, and in all honesty, I haven't looked. I haven't really asked to be shown the effect. I've been given guidance and insight into what could be possible. the more I embody my own integrity, the more I am living coherency, congruency, and integrity in action, the more aligned I am with the teachings and the principles of the book, then what happens is that creates a ripple effect that emanates out into the collective, and the potential of the book is limitless. That's not as important to me as touching the hearts of the readers and really letting the book serve as a template for them to create and recreate their experiences from the inside out. If only 5 people read the book, and yet 5 people, or 1 of 5 people, had profoundly life-altering changes as a result of the information that they connected to in the pages of the book, my job would have been done, and the book would have been successful. Again, if I go back to what I said at the beginning of the interview, we don't write books, books write us. There was this, I needed to get the information out, and yet I didn't write the book for the book to be successful. I wrote the book because there was this seed of completion within me, this true authentic desire that wanted to express and then be reflected in my hologram. And the book was written from a space of love, and infused in the book are my own experiences as well. Some experiences that don't look like love, that don't feel joyful, that actually felt pretty crummy and awful and miserable. And yet, all along, there was this awareness that I wasn't the crummy experience, I wasn't the miserable experience, that joy was still available, and that I did have a choice. And so I hope that this book reaches the one person who needs to hear what is possible and available in its pages. And that one person, when they change up their resonance, that modification is rippled into the collective, into the unified field, and that becomes available for everyone else. So really, it only takes one, just one.
Yeah. Well, and you started that ripple with this beautiful book. I'm so thrilled that you're going to be offering the DVDs and the music, the visuals. I can also see at some point doing, as you are so talented at, workshops on this.
Well, absolutely, Maxine. In fact, I've actually been teaching the workshops since January of 2014. So the workshops are in full swing as I am reconfiguring the platforms for this information. Additional workshops will become available to our listeners, anyone and everyone around the world. I'll be teaching webinars as well for those that are unable to attend the in-person experiential workshop. So I would say if anyone's interested in learning more, the best way is to visit my website at www.mjoyhartfield.com. I will also be putting the book in an audiobook format, and that'll be releasing in Thanksgiving. So for listeners that like to hear information, the entire unabridged book will be available as an audiobook as well.
Oh, I love it. You must come back again. Every time you come back, you have something new to share. And you're always welcome. And will you please let me know about these workshops? Because I'll help you spread the word. You know I will. Of course.
Well, thank you, Maxine. I just appreciate you and the space that you hold on this planet and the work that you do. And I feel like I've known you forever. So absolutely, and I look forward to playing again in some of your newer formats so that we can share more information.
Oh, absolutely. Very, very soon. So, again, thank you for being my guest. And listeners, I hope that you have, as always, loved hearing Melissa Joy Jonsson. Whenever she's on, I reach a point where I'm really not in my body. You only think I am. I've reached that point now, so it really is time to say good night. Until next time. And remember, when you change the